As we begin today, I want to acknowledge that I am located in Lloydminster on the border of Alberta and Saskatchewan in the heart of Treaty 6 territory. Before the arrival of the explorers and settlers, many First Nations traveled through and thrived in this area, which also includes the homeland of the Métis. I was born here, but I chose to return here as an adult. And now, after unlearning what I was taught in public school in the 1970s and 1980s, and relearning a less whitewashed history of this place, I see this land and its stories through very different eyes. I acknowledge that the roots of my family on the prairies came at the cost of the First Nations people who were here long before. Their land was taken so that my ancestors could farm and build their lives in this place that became known as Canada. I cannot change the past, but I can try to move forward in a good way by sharing what I've learned about the Indigenous peoples whose teachings are so intricately tied to this land and all it encompasses. Welcome to the first episode of our podcast series, Âsokan, Building Bridges. The name I use on a daily basis is Charlene, but I am proud to be called Mom and Ma. I've also been blessed with my Cree spirit name that I use in prayer and ceremony. I teach stories and writing at Lakeland College in Lloydminster, Alberta. This is where I met the man who would become my mentor, traditional knowledge keeper Wes Fine from Sweetgrass First Nation in Saskatchewan. Over the past 10 years, I've listened to and recorded stories and teachings that we would now like to share with a broader audience. Before starting the formal recording process, I made the trip out to Wes's home in order to offer cloth and tobacco so we could start this journey in the right way. We have included some footage from that day here. In this episode, we talk about what it means to be a traditional knowledge keeper and the power of medicines, medicine people, ceremony, and faith. As a note, I would like to mention that even though Wes and I met here on campus where I work, and we are filming here at Lakeland College in Lloydminster, this podcast is separate from my official work duties. Mr. Fine Day, for 10 years we have spent time together, lots of time on the phone, some time in person, some time on the land, and you've shared with me so many stories over those years, and I've tried to capture and remember those stories. But when this opportunity came up to do a podcast and to record these stories, we started talking about that, and that maybe that's a good way to share stories and for the young people and for other people to learn from you and to learn from us together and share a bit of what I've learned along the way from you and share this with others in a good way. So today I come in person and to offer cloth and tobacco, and I just ask you to accept this as part of protocol and coming in a good way to move forward together on this project as we build bridges, as we share conversations, as we pull the cart together and bring your stories to others in hopes that they will learn and grow and benefit in the way that I have over the last 10 years.
Well, I mean, that's an affirmative, eh?
Yeah.
Simply an affirmative, and that is acceptable. This is Sweetgrass from Sweetgrass. And I I smudge this tobacco and I smudge this cloth, and I ask the spirits to come and be present and to listen to the stories that we share and the things that we do, so that they may be of help to people in the future. And I just want to share a little story with you later, just to remind me before. Maga, mamo, tawi mau. Asa may nanokta ni magagisimo to ten kiksewat so no mi takap awihian ko takisagaw gigap mo was kawito taman. Nokta kitimagi tawin niyo magitawasim sa papam pichugay tikusya ni takap mo to taman. Kap nanas ko mo yan o magap mawihin misi mamiyo asik matisuin kapichak. Mamiyo yan mamiyo askaw yan ka gigoy kap mapa taman o magap mo pigi mamiyo asik. Kitimagi tawin o manokta kap misi man nanto tamatan kap mamsito taman giksewat suin. Kikasitos ko ya kikasawe miya koma. Ahama tisima chigisigo kap mo tapunian kap nistamapian pepihto. May nasima chigisigo kap mo asagap piek pepihtoak. May nota kiswa kap mo sa pamyak managap nanto tamo piek kap sitos ko ya kap nanataw miya kumapipihtoak ni musumtik no kumtik. Tapoy na mo ikat kakipin tate pananas ko mo en magakya petsmana maya kami mo yan. May nakisena peo sini pepihto ni mo so papiks questa mawen pimay twesta mawen o magamisi pa kusay mo yan. Tapoy en papahapaw pinamawen kay kikap wana hagi kay kikap wan simagiko kikape nantos ka kik miyogi koy kitimagi tawago magapmisin to tamato kuk pepihto kap may yan hi.
Should we explain a bit about why we offer tobacco specifically?
Tobacco, for instance, is one of the medicine chiefs in the plant world. And the things that we use for smudges, but tobacco is important because any time you're involved in a spiritual transaction, you have to have tobacco. And if you don't have any, you have to promise it at least, and make sure that you end up fulfilling your promise, because that's what opens the doorway for us to the spiritual dimension. Is that tobacco? It speaks for us. It opens the doorway for us, and then spirits can come and they can listen to us. But a lot of times they're around anyway, they tell me. They're around here listening to us and watching over us, and sometimes they'll remind me of something that happened, and maybe I found it funny, or maybe it caused me concern, and they'll come and they'll tell me it's not anything to worry about, relax. Yeah. So tobacco is important, and then what we call these wepinasana, cloth offerings. These are important too, because they are shields. If someone comes asking for healing and they have a terminal illness, I will not even entertain any thought of helping them unless they have tobacco and cloth and some payment. Because if I ask the spirits to remove a sickness out of a person, what happens is that they take that sickness and they put it into this cloth, which is a shield in ceremony, and they replace the old shields, which were willow, which I still use, and very few other people still use them. Maybe half a dozen that I know of that still know about the ancient offerings. But they take the sickness and they put it in here, and then I say to my helpers, take this and hang it in a tree. And once you've hung it in a tree, put tobacco around in the 4 directions, starting with, you could start with the east or the south, depending. But put tobacco in the 4 directions around the tree that you've hung the cloth in, and then when you turn around, and start coming back. Don't look back at the cloth, because you could be really traumatized if you see those spirits that come to take that sickness away. You know, your mind might not be able to stand how they present themselves to you, how they appear.
Well, so you taught me to kind of pick the cloth, pick the color that resonates with me, kind of trusting my gut a bit and what feels right. Yeah.
It's about feeling and sensing. It's not an intellectual exercise, you know, when you're dealing with spirits. Well, let me see. I want to talk to God, you know. Well, what makes you think God would talk to you, you know? But there are the helpers. There is the one that sits first, that serves Creator. And then there's the ones that sit close to Him in that level. And then you have that descending, you know, to other levels, to the point where we have a level of spirits that are all around us all the time. You know, they're aware of our presence. They bless us, they guide us, they come to us in dreams, and they'll even just, you know, you're out somewhere. It's like the eagle today. He flew right in front of my car and did this with his wings. And I thought, thank you, grandfather. You know, I thank you for your blessing. I ask you to look after these ones that I'm going to go and talk to, and that we benefit in a good way from the things that we're trying to do.
So when I introduce you, I mean, I usually say Wes Fine Day, my Nehio mentor, a traditional knowledge keeper from Sweetgrass First Nation. So what does that term traditional knowledge keeper mean?
It's that you have a connection to the dimension of ancient knowledge, which is a spiritual dimension. And, you know, you can have a very strong connection, or your connection can be very tenuous, where it comes and goes, you know. It's like when the signal in your phone works sometimes and other times it doesn't. So there are times, and, you know, who can say what determines it? Is it, you know, for instance, a spirit say to me, in 7 days there will be 5 young men coming to your house. They are all badly injured. They have been in a car accident. They were out drinking and brought this upon themselves. They got into an accident. But now they want to turn to ceremony for healing and for help. But it is not so they can change their lives. It's so they can go back to drinking and driving around again. So when they come, they will bring you blankets and money and tobacco and ask you for healing. And when they do that, the spirits told me, tell them to go and find someone else, that you cannot accept their offerings, you see. And if they want to know why, explain to them that, you know, why do they want to get healed? You know? So they can go back to drinking and driving, or do they want to get healed so that they can step onto the path and begin their spiritual journey? Totally different things. Yeah. Spirits in the bottle or spirits in creation. Yeah.
But again, the spirits see through that, right? Like the spirits understand the intentions.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
They know
absolutely. I mean, there is nothing that can be hidden from those ones. No matter how far back or how deep people try to hide things, I mean, they'll be brought to the surface. And, well, why did you try to hide this or run from this? Or you know? Is it because you're not prepared to deal with it, or, you know?
But I mean, a medicine person or a knowledge keeper should also, I guess, recognize this is something that isn't in my wheelhouse. You need to see somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, for what you come with, I don't have the medicines for that, you know. But I know someone who does. Yeah. That's right.
It's like a little network.
Hmm?
A network.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why those circles exist, eh?
Mm-hmm.
The Metewak, and then when they have their awakening ceremony there in the spring or in the summer, they've all been picking medicines. And each of them will take some of the medicines they've picked and put them into a common pile. And that will be processed. And then it will be divided into bundles so that every member of that society has a share of that medicine. And because they were all involved in the preparation and in the awakening and understand the use of these medicines, they cannot use them against each other.
Oh.
You see.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have people testing each other spiritually, eh?
Right.
Yeah. And that I've heard stories where, you know, at Medicine Society gatherings, there have been people who have come and tried to challenge the leader and thinking they should be the ones. And one of the challengers, one day, they say he just reached back into his hair and he pulled out a feather. And he went, and that feather went sailing across the room and hit that leader in the head. And while that man was singing, that feather began to go deeper and deeper. And when only the quill was left sticking out, that leader looked at his singers and nodded, and they began to sing his power song. And everyone sat there and watched as that feather began to come back out. And when it was out, he took it. And I'll keep this. I'll keep this, and if you ever try anything again, you know, you will pay. You will pay dearly. So remember that. You could not defeat me. Always have that in your mind if you ever think you should try again, you know, that I can send this back, but I can multiply its power many, many times over than what you have. And I can make you suffer, you know, the way you wanted me to suffer. I can cause that to happen to you. And whole lines of families have been wiped out. I remember this one family we worked with, there was only one person left in that family because the rest had been wiped out by medicines. Because these medicine people were afraid of that man, and they were trying to kill him, but he wouldn't defend himself. He would not answer. And I don't know if he didn't answer their challenge because he thought if he just let them have their way with him that they would stop. But after he died, they went after his children and his grandchildren until there was only one woman left with her son. And they came and found us and they said, this is what happened. And we see things in the yard, you know, there will be a bird land in the yard, but then as soon as it lands, it turns into something else and runs off. And we call those pasigun kanak. Pasigun kan. It's the ones that are awakened or created. Oh, you know, they're not natural. they're creations of someone's spirit and emotions and mind. And, yeah. But they can be dangerous. I mean, they say they saw a bird land and then something scurrying under the house, and they knew then that, there's only two of them left. Okay, we have to do something. We have to find someone who can help us. We're the last two left, and so that woman had been desperate. And when, they came to our ceremony and her son heard our songs and heard the spirits coming in, he said, I knew then. That was when I knew we were safe, finally. Wow. After all these different people that we had been going to see. And still, our family kept dying. And, they told us they helped us, but it wasn't working. You were our last resort, they said. We don't have anything more. We've given everything away. But what little we had left, it's yours for helping us. And in that building, they had some helpers, Âsokan. They sent them out in the yard to look after the cars. There were so many people in that yard, and make sure nobody does anything to those cars. So there was two of these young men, maybe 20, 22, something like that. Young men, really healthy and strong. You guys go and look after those. If anybody tries to mess around out there, tune them up. Okay. When those spirits started to come in, they came through the bushes first. They shook all the leaves on the tree, and the leaves were shaking, branches were cracking. They passed through the bush, and then they hit the house, and the house just started to shake and rock. And if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that this house is going to fall down on us, But just as that was going on, the door flew open, and these young men who had been sent to guard the vehicles came rushing in, just terrified, and leapt into the house and looked down. There's something out there. There's something out there. Well, why aren't you out there looking after things? But they were just terrified, They knew something was coming, but they had no idea what, and they knew they were powerless to deal with it. So when we've had things like that, sometimes people will say, well, if you're going to go and fast, can we come? Can I come? Can I come? Can I bring my son? Can I bring my daughter? And because we can see, the results of what you're doing. We know that it makes a difference. Yeah.
So what about in terms of medicines? And I guess people selling medicines, or mass...
Well, actually, I would be ashamed to go to someone and ask them to give me medicine if I didn't have payment. I would have to be beyond poor. I mean, and even then, I wouldn't ask. Mm-hmm. Because it is something that you would never do, Ask someone for medicines or for ceremony, and all you offer is your sickness and your weakness and your presence, For what? And again, my question would be why? I mean, if you don't even have the ambition to go out and try to get something so that you don't come empty-handed with, why do you want to get healed? so you can get back to your dysfunctional life. I'm not interested in facilitating that, you know. You want to get back to a dysfunctional existence, well, just go, you know. Yeah, but don't ever, you know. And again, it's like I've had people come to me. I'm working on making some crafts, but I need a bay blanket. And somebody told me you had some bay blankets. I would like to trade you. Here's a braid of sweetgrass. Can you give me a bay blanket? I told him, go to Hudson Bay and maybe they'll give you one for a braid of sweetgrass, you know. People who gave me these things gave it to me because they were valuable to them,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah, and you think that because I work with medicines and I'm a spiritual person that, you know, I should feel obligated to give you something, you know, that's very valuable, but without you putting any effort into, you know, like, what's that about? You know, it's your sense of entitlement, you know. I forget that. And I've had, you know, a woman come to me. She wanted some medicine. And it was medicine for a medical condition. And she brought me a braid of sweetgrass. And I looked at it and I said, "Oh, what's this for?" "Oh, well, I hear you know the medicine for this illness, and I've come to ask you if you can give me that medicine or heal me." And I brought sweetgrass for payment. And I say, "Well, you should go and see somebody else." Who told you that's payment? "Well, my mother is always telling me don't ever pay for medicine." "Well, go and get medicine off your mother, you know, if she doesn't require payment. I mean, maybe she has the time and energy to go and pick medicines and then just start handing it out, you know. But I don't. This medicine is valuable to me because it's powerful and because it can be healing. So when someone comes demanding it, I think these people are too entitled, you know. Don't come and bother me with your sense of entitlement just because you have this sickness and you think you're special that I should cure you for nothing. You know, go see a doctor. Yeah. You don't want to pay, well, the government will pay them. Government doesn't pay me, you know. Yeah.
And what about, we had talked about harvesting medicines that grow like within town as opposed to out in the wild. And we've had some discussion about, you know, community gardens and planting medicines, planting tobacco or sweetgrass or fireweed in town and using that for medicinal or ceremonial purposes. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that is medicine. That is ceremony. You know, can be used for ceremony. But in the planting, always interact with those seeds, you see. So when you use them in ceremony or in medicine, I mean, they already know who you are. And if you are asking for someone, well, it's because you're asking that they're going to be benevolent to someone that you care about because you're emotionally connected to someone. So your emotionality plays a great part in that too. You know, the fact that you care. Yeah. And it's not just, you know, that's for a while that so many of these things were misunderstood. Like, we were cautioned as children not to covet anybody's belongings to the point where you would never say, "Boy, you have a nice coat." Because then I might be, you know, you might be thinking, "Oh, well, he likes my coat. don't want him to be coveting anything, I'll just give it to him, And for a while, that was a practice among young Indian people who were not versed in the culture. But they saw that, someone admired something and that person gave it to them so they wouldn't, be wanting something that they didn't have, you see. And some people took advantage of that to the point where they say, gee, you have a nice rifle there. And for me, I say, yeah, works really good. Well, you're supposed to give it to me because I admired it. I said, well, who told you that? Well, isn't that the old way? That's not the old way, I mean, that's something that's been dreamed up by people who have no connection to the culture, And it's been used to rip off ceremonialists who feel obliged because that part of their training was that you shouldn't hang on to things that are coveted by others. Even if that person already knows that and is doing that simply to take your possessions without giving anything back. Yeah. And again, I always remember that Âsokan. Manto is a spirit, And Âsokan is embodiment of spirit. But, they were made out of poplar trees. A tree would be cut and then put in the ground and cross pieces tied there. And then at the top, a head would be carved and eyes and nose and a mouth. And on those arms, people would come and bring cloth offerings and also, clothes and, sometimes you'd find a rifle there, or one time there was a metal box full of old photographs that I saw there. And I thought, I should have brought something with me so I could take these things. But I didn't, and so I put them back. And I went and got something to go and trade that spirit of sharing post. I brought a gift for that one, tobacco and cloth and one of my possessions, so I could leave those things and take that, and I would not be overstepping boundaries because it had been an exchange. Where if I were simply to say, boy, these are beautiful pictures, I think I'll take them home. My grandfather told me one time that he and his friend had done that. They found some nice kind of jewelry at that Âsokan. And, being young and foolish teenagers, he said, we just decided to take it. We had no tobacco and nothing to change, so we just took it. But then that night, he said, both of us dreamt that spirit that inhabits that post, that sharing spirit, came and told us that we had taken something from there and that we had not brought anything back in exchange. And that happened for 4 nights, he said. That spirit kept coming back. And after that 4th night, I knew if I didn't take something, that something would happen to me, because he gave me 4 warnings. So my friend and I, we went back to that post. And that's the ones that priests and traders referred to as a trading post. We took back what we had taken from there and, a little extra, so that spirit wouldn't be offended and would no longer, come to us demanding that we, put to right the mistakes that we had made. And after that, he said, nothing happened. But I just tell you this story because if you ever go to that one over there and you see something you really like, well, make sure you have something to trade for it, Don't just take, because that's not what those posts are for.
So it really is reciprocal, and that's the same as medicines.
Yeah.
Anything that we're going to ask for.
That's right. Interaction is always reciprocal. You take something and you have to give back. Or you give something and you can expect something back. And it may not be immediate, but eventually, if it's done in a good way, it will come back to you. And I've had things come to me, it's like a buffalo hide. I sat on the mountains and I thought, boy, it would be nice to have a buffalo hide to sit on in this fasting lodge. I'll have to keep my eyes open, see if I can find a hide somewhere sometime. So next time I come to the mountain, I can put it in my fasting lodge. At the end of our fast, and just before we had the final sweat, this truck pulled up, and it was this Blackfoot medicine man. And I could see him looking around. But he wasn't saying anything. Then I saw him looking at me, almost like he recognized me. And he came walking over. And he asked me, did you guys sweat yet? Oh, no, not yet. Well, can I sweat with you guys? Oh, yeah. Come on. It's for... And he said he had his own lodge and his own spirit helpers. And then after we were finished sweating and were sitting around, we were eating, and he said, the reason I came up here is I dreamt. I dreamt about you, he said to me. And my spirit helpers told me to bring you a buffalo hide. It's in the truck. Just hang on, I'll go and get it, he said. And he went to his truck and he came carrying this buffalo hide, and he said, this is yours. That's what those spirits told me to give you. You probably earned it because of your suffering here, he said. And I'm just a conduit. I'm just a messenger who was sent to deliver it to you.
So he could have ignored that and said, oh, I want to keep this buffalo hide and this doesn't make sense. But something
that
would have.
That was a silly dream. Yeah, but he was, there was no question. He just had to find me. He knew I was up there, and there was quite a few of us. I could see him sitting at the side, and he was looking at people. And then when he noticed me, I could see, he recognized something in me. And then he came, and asked about the fast and the sweat. Could he sweat with us? And we chatted, and he said he had his own sweat lodge, and he did the shaking lodge, and he had spirit helpers. And then he also said, after he had given me that, he said that his spirit helpers had told him that I was a keeper of some very powerful medicine. And he asked if I could share some of that medicine with him. And that's the medicine that's in my pocket. I used to give him tiny little bottles of it at a time because I didn't know him, and I didn't know what purposes he was trying to use it for. And so I would just give him enough to doctor, people. And he always tried to buy the mixture, the recipe off me. One time he showed up with a stick, and a stick, when they show up with a stick, it represents a horse. And he had a gold nugget from the Yukon, he said. And he told me it was worth $2,500. And he had a gold ring. And then he had $2,500 in cash, and he put them on the table. Put tobacco down. He said, "Can you show me your medicine?"
Mm-hmm.
And I sat and thought about it. And I said, "I can give you some. But, I can't share it with you. I can't tell you how to make it, because they haven't told me to, If they had told me to share it with you, I would be happy to, but I wasn't told that, and so I cannot. I'd be overstepping my own boundaries there."
Right. Yeah. And then there would be consequences for you.
Absolutely. Well, myself, I'm not worried about, but my children, my family, see. Yeah. And so in the ceremony, when I pray, I always say, "Let me bear my own burdens. Do not pass them on to my little ones." Let it stop with me. That has always been my greatest fear, is that I wouldn't be able to stop things from hitting them, but I've been lucky, and they've been lucky. And they have their own spirit helpers now, and for me, it's not such a worry anymore. Now, I can give them tobacco and say, "Can you ask your spirit helpers to dance for me? Dance wellness into me." Or, whatever it is. And it's amazing because my boys, I think they're the youngest ones that have been taken under the wing of medicine people and trained in the old way. And I always hesitated to go into the mountains to fast with them, because I know how hard it is. And when the grizzly comes right to your lodge and starts digging out the offerings you put behind your lodge, and you're inches away from its head, if you did not have the explicit faith that because I sit here with a pipe, and this bear knows that pipe is sacred, and I'm here doing ceremony, it will not harm me. It will take the offerings and leave, but I will be blessed with, because of that gift I made it. But there have been people who say, "Yeah, there was a great big grizzly right behind that lodge there. He was digging a hole in the ground where you put the fish and the berries. He dug them out, ate them, and then left. Well, that's why I put them there." So my prayers were answered. And I'm glad I didn't see him there. I heard him breathing and digging.
But I mean, it's an act of faith.
Yeah. And that is, you have to get to the point where your faith is just there. It's unconditional. Without a doubt that you are protected. And, don't ever let doubt creep into the equation. Because it comes from a place of fear and a place of unworthiness. And that's not where we want you connected to. We want you to be fearless, to be a visionary, to be understanding, to be loving, to be kind. We want you to exhibit the traits of a child of Creator at the highest level, the most developed. Après.
Thank you for joining us. We look forward to continuing these conversations. Thank you to Mr. Fine for his time and stories. Special thanks to the Lloydminster Public School Division Prairie Thunder Boys Drum Group for providing the music for our podcast. We also want to acknowledge Lakeland College for the use of space and equipment, as well as TELUS STORYHIVE for their support.